Hey everybody, this is Chris, MTGO's Rec Start, and this is part one of this week's Show and Tell series, the ongoing audio-video deck tech series, where I take a look at the decks and the matches of the Tribal Apocalypse player run event, and talk about the Tribal Legacy Wars format. And I'm going to start off this week by looking at my deck. This was Naya Warriors, and I went undefeated in the Swiss with this, and then lost a rather anticlimactic final to Mia Hitler's White Weenie Humans deck. So let me first give you a little look at the deck, and then I will go through a couple of replays on it. It's a Naya aggro deck, but it's quite a bit more mid-range than, say, something like a Cat Sly deck would be. But obviously, one of the appeals of the Warrior tribe is that you get to start with Wild Nicodle down here at the end. Now, one way to do this is you can try to pair him with another one-drop, and I originally tried Tattermunge Maniac, but I found that the guy was just ended up suiciding himself and was completely irrelevant by the time he was attacking quite often. So instead of that, because the original build did have 23 creatures in it, so I just swapped out those other ones for Deathrite Shamans, which I thought would give me a little bit of game against Reanimator. Really, the life gain is pretty awesome too, and he was definitely a hero this week. So I loved him as an off-tribe splash. And although I don't always advocate having just one drop in an aggro deck, Wild Nicodle, it comes in as a 3/3 for 1 mana, and really that's not even that bad in the mid game, really, because it frees up other mana to do other things with as well. So, and he comes in as a 4/4 with Bramblewood Paragon, of course, and Bramblewood Paragon, another one of the great reasons to play Warriors. He's certainly one of the strongest lords in a format that's going to have a lot of creature combat in it, potentially. He makes your guys come in bigger. Of course, you have to play them after you've played him. You top deck him, it's not going to pump any of your guys in existing, but he also gives your guys trample if you can get a +1/+1 counter on him. Of course, he will put the +1/+1 counter on him, but that's not the only way you can do it. For instance, the Rubble Belt Raiders can get +1/+1 counters on them by attacking, and I've got a couple of Raging Ravines in here which also get +1/+1 counters. So this guy can do some work even if you top deck him later. Ash Zealot, a very aggressive 2-drop, seen a lot of play in Standard right now. The double red certainly makes you have to stretch your mana base just a little bit, and but if you can support it in a 3-color deck, Ash Zealot is certainly a great aggressive 2-drop, and it also has First Strike, which came in handy quite a few times during the day. I went with the aforementioned Rubble Belt Raiders, one of the cards I like from Gate Crash. It gets pretty big and pretty out of hand in a hurry, and I definitely like it as a mid-range warrior drop. And at the 4 slot, there's not a lot of competition in Naya colors, as I wrote in my little Gate Crash 10 cards to watch feature from a month or so back. The 4-drop slot, if you want a creature in the 4-drop slot in Warriors, if you're in Naya colors, your options are pretty limited, and I think this is probably the strongest pick right now. Wolfear Silverheart was kind of a late addition when I started realizing I wanted to go more mid-range with this deck. The Wolfear Silverheart really it's essentially got 4 hasty power because it's going to pair up with something. Now, there's a lot of instant speed removal in this format, but the damage-based stuff he's going to be pretty much out of reach of, so I'm not too worried about that. The Swords, Plowshares, and Path to Exiles of the world make this guy cry, but he's powerful enough that that I think he's worth inclusion. I played just for kicks one Jacques Levert here is an old original Legends. He does make your green creatures +0/+2, which conveniently puts them all out of lightning bolt range, and so I thought he was worth trying out. The Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, Path to Exile shouldn't be controversial at this point. It was an aggressive deck. I didn't want to play Swords to Plowshares. I opted for Path to Exile. Chain Lightning, there's a lot of red in the metagame right now, and Chain Lightning may be a little too dangerous to play right now. So I'm not sure if that was optimal. Burst Lightning or something might have been better. Especially since I'm not running Tarmogoyfs or anything that benefit from me having the sorcery in the graveyard. So, not sure about that one. Couple little singletons here. Sylvan Library. I'm a big fan of playing the singleton Sylvan Library in aggro decks. Concordant Crossroads I thought I would try because I didn't have anything at the 3 slot, and so I thought, well, on my 3rd turn, I might be able to play a Concordant Crossroads and a removal spell or a 2-drop and just sort of smooth that out and then make my 4 drops hasty. But in practice, I didn't have a lot of time to test with this, and in practice, the one time I actually did play that plan, it backfired on me horribly as my opponent played a Knight of the Reliquary and went nuts with it. So I probably would cut this if I played the deck again. Mana base is pretty standard: fetchland, dual land, mana base, the aforementioned Raging Ravines, and the Slayer's Stronghold just as a singleton. I figured in the late game it would allow me to make one of my big guys hasty when I top deck him or something like that, and that was pretty much the idea of that, and I think this one's fine for that. So let's take a look at a couple of replays. First we're going to look at this one here against Sequar Deathkeeper. He's playing an aggressive core deck, and this is a game that I'm going to lose, although I did win the match. And looking back on it, I don't know if my plan was correct or not, but the minute that I saw those lightning greaves, so I'm positive, my concern was that I know he's going to have other equipment in this deck, and my concern was that anything he got down, he could slap a greaves on, and then, you know, slap a sword to later, and there's nothing I'm going to be able to do about it. I don't have any board wipes, anything like that. So I was really concerned that I needed to be able to kill anything that he would drop as soon as he dropped it. And so I'm holding up mana the rest of the game instead of pressing my advantage. Now, that may be correct. I'm drawing a ton of my instant speed removal in this game. And it may be that that was the right play. If I tap out here, you'll see in a little bit when I get to 4 lands. Right now I'm leaving one up for the Ash Zealot, which I did not play on turn 2 specifically for that reason. Now I'm certainly thankful here that I have the chance to get rid of that core Firewalker, which is going to otherwise be a nightmare for me. So at least at this point of the game, I think my plan was correct. You're going to see here, rather than play the Rubble Belt Raiders, I just hold this up because I don't want to tap out. But he, it turns out, doesn't have a play here. So if I'd played the Rubble Belt Raiders, I'd be putting a lot of pressure on him. And later you're going to see Wraths of God, and I don't know if he's holding it in his hand right now. That probably would have triggered him playing it. Not sure, so it might not have mattered. I go ahead and go to the Dome with that Chain Lightning because it's not instant speed removal, and I don't figure I'm going to have too much opportunity to use it on a creature because of those Lightning Greaves. So I'm going to swing in with the Ash Zealot, which finally he decides to Swords there. And then I go ahead and put out the Sylvan Library. And I'm feeling pretty good at 20-9 with that Sylvan Library, and I'm finding all my instant speed removal, and so I'm thinking this would be alright for me. I drop the Bramblewood Paragon. He's got a Lone Missionary, which is going to get his life total back into safe territory. I go ahead and let him sort it, because I can still bolt it after that, in response to the Greaves equip. And I figure here I've got a life lead. I might as well use it to just get some raw card advantage, and I go ahead and dig 2 there. And now I've got the Paragon and the Nicodle, and he's going to try to sword a guy, and I'm going to use yet another instant speed removal on it. And at this point I don't want to spend any more life because I'm a little afraid of him slapping a couple guys down, and I don't know what he's sandbagging there at 1. So here I've got the Rubble Belt Raiders. He swords one of my guys, and now he Wraths, so I don't know if that was a top deck. If it was very timely. Now he's got the core, the Lone Missionary, which I have to path here, and still I'm thinking we're in pretty good shape here. I've got a Silver Heart, an active library, and he's top decking. So I need him to not top deck something insane. Unfortunately he does. I went ahead and just beat here with a Raging Ravine, and then played out the Bramblewood Paragon. Unfortunately, he draws one of the worst possible things for me, which is this Stoneforge Mystic. But really, any creature he had drawn that he was able to put the pro-green sword on was going to be a big problem for me at this point. And so in hindsight, I don't know if it would have been bad. I'm not sure I could have stayed in the game if I hadn't spent that life on Sylvan Library. So I don't know. But in hindsight, I'm not sure if I played that one right or not. Let's take a look at another game here. This is my first game in round one against Electron Blue, who was playing Goblins. Pretty straightforward Goblin list. Keep a opening hand with 3 removal spells and a Wild Nicotl. The fact that I only have 1 creature is a little bit of a concern, but since he is playing Goblins, I will stop to say here, when I play these Naya aggro decks against something like Goblins, linear aggro with Goblin Chieftains, Lords, that kind of thing, I usually end up taking sort of the control role anyways, and since I'm a mid-range deck, that's more mid-range in this build than I am with, say, like Cats or something. I don't mind that at all, taking on a bit of a control role, because I've got better drops once I get up to 4 mana, assuming that I will draw them. So I don't mind having the hand with all the spot removal right now, because I'm assuming I can just keep this under control. Now, he does have a couple of things that are going to be problematic for me. We're going to see in a minute. I'm going to take out the Goblin Chieftain. Arsonist gets in just for 1. And hand is still nothing but removals. He's got the second Chieftain and a Dragon Fodder. Now, I'll take out the Chieftain, but Dragon Fodder is going to be a problem here because he has this, and you'll see a Krenko's command later, that these token makers, all my little 1-for-1 removal looks pretty awful against those. So I have to just kind of bide my time. Now, I got a Deathrite Shaman. That's going to let me regain some life, which is not bad. I'm not in any immediate threat here, or so I think. He's got a Krenko's command, and he's got 1 card left. I go ahead and gain a little bit of life, and I'm going to run the Rebel Belt Raiders out there, and leave open 1 mana to use my Deathrite Shaman or Path Chieftain or something like that if he had one. So I'll just gain a couple of life with the Deathrite Shaman. Now, I go ahead and swing in here with the Rebel Belt Raiders, thinking that the Crackback's not going to be too bad. Unfortunately, he's got a Goblin Bushwhacker. Now, the Crackback would have been bad if I'd held the Raiders or not. Even if I'd held them back, that's only saving me a couple of damage. And I am able to get a couple life back off of Deathrite Shaman there again. So Deathrite Shaman really keeping me in the game right now. Now here's the Bramblewood Paragon, and here's an example of where you play the Paragon after the creature, but you still get benefit from it because I have the counter on those Rebel Belt Raiders. So, alright, now I'm waiting. At this point, I know I can't survive a Crackback if he's got any kind of damage, or if he's sandbagging a Bushwhacker or something. He spends the Goblin Grenade on the creature. He could have probably just gone to the Dome there if he has more burn in his deck, but I don't know what he's got. Another Bramblewood Paragon comes down, and see, now he's got a Lightning Bolt. If he could have just assuming that I couldn't gain any more life, and there weren't any creatures left for me to gain life off of there until he grenaded the 1, so that would have been game if he'd gone to the Dome with both those. And here I'm able to crack in because I know I have him with the 2 Chain Lightnings. He, for some reason, bounces 1 back off, which allows me to redirect it and finish him, but I would have had him anyways there. So, anyways, that's the Naya Warrior aggro deck in action, and in part 2 we're going to take a look at a Hounds deck, so join me then.